Daniela was 24 years old, the kind of young woman who drew eyes without trying. Not because she chased attention, but because she carried herself with the relaxed confidence of someone who loved beauty, creativity, and little adventures that didn't hurt anyone. Her friends often said she had a face for cameras, and though she never pursued modeling as a career, she found herself drawn into a different kind of modeling: hair modeling. It had started simply, almost by accident. One of her closest friends, Julia, had gone to cosmetology school years earlier. Julia had a gift for hair. She could see in strands of brown or blonde or auburn a whole canvas of possibilities. The two had known each other since high school, and Daniela often let Julia experiment with her hair just for fun. When Julia graduated and started working in a salon, Daniela naturally became her go-to model. Daniela enjoyed it more than she expected. The salon atmosphere, the buzz of dryers and the faint scent of hair products, the quiet intimacy of sitting in the chair under a cape, it gave her a sense of transformation each time. Julia was talented, and Daniela trusted her completely. Whether it was subtle caramel highlights, a bold new color, or a stylish layered cut, Julia always delivered looks that made Daniela walk out smiling, and Daniela had the temperament for it. She wasn't afraid of change, at least not at first. She found joy in being wrapped in the smooth material of a white PVC barber cape, the cool fabric fastened snugly around her neck. It was like surrendering to a ritual, a moment where she gave herself over to creativity. Julia often told her, "You're the best kind of model. You trust me." And Daniela would laugh because it was true. She did. Over time, Julia invited Daniela to model more formally. Sometimes it was at the salon, when Julia wanted to demonstrate techniques to younger stylists. Other times, it was for practice runs before a competition. Daniela always said yes. She loved the feeling of being chosen, of being part of Julia's artistic world. But one evening changed things. It had been a late Thursday session. Julia had asked Daniela if she could come by after the salon closed. "We're experimenting with undercuts and side shaves," Julia explained. "Just partials, not a full buzz. I'd love to try it on you. Nothing drastic. Just the sides blended into the top. You'll look amazing, I promise." Daniela hesitated. Shaving, even just the sides, felt different from color or highlights. It was more final. But Julia's excitement was infectious. She trusted her friend, and deep down, part of her was curious, so she agreed. That night, the salon felt quiet and secretive, the mirrors reflecting empty chairs and dimmed lights. Daniela sat down, and Julia fastened a white PVC cape around her, the material gleaming under the soft lamps. Julia buzzed her clippers, and Daniela's heart skipped. The vibration against her skin was strange, unnerving, and yet exhilarating. She felt the warmth of the clippers running up her sides, heard the hum and the rasp as hair fell away. When Julia spun her to face the mirror, Daniela hardly recognized herself. The shaved sides accentuated her cheekbones, gave her a boldness she hadn't expected. "Oh my God," she whispered, running her fingers over the soft stubble. It felt alien and wonderful at the same time. Julia grinned. "See? You look awesome." And Daniela had to agree. She left the salon that night with her heart racing, feeling rebellious, modern, powerful. She told herself she'd never regret trusting Julia. Weeks passed, and Daniela grew used to the edgy cut. People complimented her constantly, and she carried herself differently. Sharper, more confident. Julia was thrilled. "You're my masterpiece," she teased one afternoon. Then came the invitation. Julia had been selected to present at a stage show for hairdressers, a showcase where stylists demonstrated techniques in front of an audience of peers. It was a big honor, and Julia was nervous but thrilled. "I want you to be my model," Julia said. "You're perfect for it." The words filled Daniela with pride. To be chosen meant Julia trusted her as much as she trusted Julia. She didn't hesitate before agreeing. "Of course," she said. "Anything you need." The plan, Julia explained, was simple. A stylish trim, maybe refining the sides and some creative coloring. Nothing drastic. Daniela nodded eagerly. She imagined herself on stage, the lights shining, the hum of excitement in the crowd. She felt butterflies already. The night of the show arrived. Daniela prepared carefully, knowing appearances mattered. Julia had asked her to wear a black latex suit and heels. "It'll match the aesthetic of the presentation," she explained. Daniela had never worn latex before, and the second skin feel made her blush at first. It was sleek, glossy, and hugged her figure, paired with sharp black heels that clicked as she walked. She felt like part of a performance already. Backstage, she saw the old barber chair waiting. It had a presence, heavy and vintage, with cracked leather and steel arms. Daniela's stomach fluttered. This wasn't just sitting in a salon. This was a show. When Julia called her up, Daniela walked on stage, the lights blinding for a moment. The crowd of stylists murmured, watching. She sat in the chair, poised, nervous but smiling. Then Julia unfurled the cape. It wasn't the familiar white one. This time it was black PVC, glossy as oil, heavy as it settled over her body. Julia tied it snugly around her neck. Across the front, in bold white letters, was the word, barbershop. The audience applauded lightly. Daniela felt her heart race. She looked out, then quickly back at her reflection in the large mirror facing the stage. She tried to calm her nerves. Julia began to talk, explaining techniques, combing through Daniela's hair, snipping a little here and there. Daniela relaxed. This was what she had expected. She closed her eyes briefly, letting the rhythm of the scissors soothe her. Then she heard it. The sudden, sharp buzz of clippers. Her eyes flew open. The sound filled her ears, louder than it ever had before. She froze in the chair. The cape felt heavier suddenly, her breath shallow beneath it. Before she could react, before she could ask, she felt the vibration against the back of her head. The clippers touched down, firm, relentless. A cold path ran up her scalp. Daniela gasped. This wasn't the plan. This wasn't what she had agreed to. But Julia was talking, her voice calm, professional, explaining to the audience about bold transformations, about bravery, about style evolution. The crowd murmured approval, curious, engaged. Daniela wanted to raise her hand, to stop it, but she was frozen. The clippers pushed higher, the teeth scraping close, and suddenly clumps of her hair slid down. She saw them tumble, heavy and soft, landing on the cape. They slid across the glossy surface, some catching on the bold white letters, barbershop. Her chest tightened. She wanted to cry already, but the clippers moved again, this time along the side. The buzzing filled her skull, a vibration that seemed to rattle her teeth. She felt the cold air kiss freshly shaved skin as another mass of her hair dropped, sliding down her shoulder, bouncing into her lap. She watched in the mirror, horrified. More of her long hair was sheared away, her familiar self disappearing. The cape caught it all, the black surface now littered with pale strands that looked almost obscene against the darkness. The audience applauded lightly at each pass, impressed by Julia's confidence. Daniela, trapped under the cape, wanted to scream. She couldn't. The moment felt surreal, dreamlike, as if she were outside her body watching this happen to someone else. The clippers roared again, pressed against her crown, and Daniela flinched. She saw her reflection morph, patches of bare scalp showing through, her once beautiful hair now ragged and falling. Julia was methodical, calm, as if this were rehearsed. Another sweep, and more hair tumbled. Daniela felt the weight leave her head, but also a part of her identity. She wanted to push Julia's hand away, but her friend's grip was firm, steady, as though this were destiny. Soon the mirror showed almost nothing left. Her scalp gleamed under the lights, pale, raw. The clippers made one last hungry pass, and Daniela saw the final locks fall, sliding down the cape and onto the stage floor. She was bald. Completely. Her hands trembled beneath the cape. She blinked and tears spilled down her cheeks, though she tried to hide them. The audience cheered, some even whistled, but all she heard was the ringing silence of loss. When Julia finally shut the clippers off, the silence was deafening. Daniela stared at herself in the mirror, her reflection unrecognizable. Her scalp shone under the stage lights, her tears tracing lines down her cheeks. Julia smiled proudly at the crowd, thanking them, speaking about courage, reinvention. But Daniela couldn't hear. She was locked in her own world, devastated. When the cape was unfastened, her shorn hair tumbled to the ground. She stepped off the stage in a daze, heels clicking awkwardly, her latex suit suddenly suffocating. Backstage, away from the crowd, she broke. She sank into a chair and sobbed, burying her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook, her body racked with the betrayal she felt. Julia tried to comfort her, insisting, "It was beautiful, it was art, they loved it." But Daniela pulled away. "This wasn't the deal," she whispered hoarsely. "You didn't tell me. You took everything." Her scalp burned with the ghost of the clippers, her skin prickling as if the machine still hummed. Julia's voice faded as Daniela stood, wiping her tears. "Never again," she said. Her voice cracked, but her resolve was clear. "I'll never be your model again." And she walked away, heels echoing in the empty hallway, the fragments of her hair still clinging to her suit.